Alrighty, welcome back to the secret underground lair. We continue to work on the Worktable Sawmill. We're getting ready now to get the bearings into the feet of the Worktable Sawmill. So I've drilled some holes into the feet. These bearings are actually, there'll be a bolt that'll run right through. The bolt will go straight through there, and the bearing will sit in a dado cut into that foot about here. Okay, I've got the router table set up, so we'll be passing the piece through this. We're just going to take very shallow cuts at a time to get this 5/8 dado cut into the bottom of the foot. So we'll start that process now. We'll now go through and cut a slightly higher dado going partway through with the table saw, and that'll give clearance for the bearing that sits at the ends of these feet. In order to determine how high to set the blade, I'm just simply inserting or placing the bearing over the hole where it's going to go, sticking the bolt in through that hole, and now I can just mark here where the height of the bearing is going to be as it sits inside that dado. Now I know exactly the top clearance, so I'll give a little bit extra and put the blade about that high. That should give me the clearance that I need. All right, we're ready to make these cuts. All right, so we have the dado cut. You can see now the bearing sits inside that hollow. There's a little bit of clearance in there to get a washer on either side of that bearing, just so that it will rotate freely and won't bind up against the side. The next step will be to drill holes through this way so we can set bearings here and here. These bearings will simply be there to keep the rail from binding against the side of the foot. All right, so there's the foot cut. The bolt going through that holds the bearing. We got a couple washers in there to give that bearing a little bit of space evenly between the sides of the dado. Two bearings on the edge to kind of keep the rail centered, and the same arrangement down at this end. Bearings on the washers between the bearing sides in the dado, and then these two bearings here. So the entire foot just sits down on top of the rail like so, and you can see the bearing sitting there on the rail, and the two guides, there's a little bit of wiggle room there, allows the bearing to move, but it will now roll very nicely up and down the rail. So we'll finish the bearings on the other foot and then do a loose fit of the entire structure back together again and show the whole thing sliding up and down on the rails. All right, so the structure is back together with a loose, dry fit, but it rolls nicely. So very pleased with that. The next video will be working on taking this cross beam, that's what's represented here in the picture, and mounting it up with some threaded rods to support it up and down here to control the up and down movement. So that's the next piece to work on. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for part 3.